I think I may have gone and started too many hobbies. Hello! My name is Ella Jean, your local fantasy author, and I have been taking a bit of a break from writing. I know. This is a writing channel. I call myself the fantasy author. Let me have this. When I was younger, writing was really the only hobby I had, because it was the only thing I was really good at. I could pick it up and do it anywhere. I could do it during class. I could do it at home. I could do it on the bus. I could just sit and write. And it was lovely and wonderful. And I probably put too much of myself into it because I was going through a period of depression and suicidal thoughts and self-harming, and writing was the path forward. Which is fine. That's fine. I'm doing better now. You see, I was an anxious perfectionist through and through. Any other hobby I attempted to pick up didn't happen. I wasn't good at a lot of just traditional physical handcrafts. My brother is amazing at them, and he'd be like, "Here, I can teach you how to crochet," and I'd make a sad little lopsided square, and I'm like, "I don't like it," so I'd drop it, and he'd be like, "Here, let me teach you how to draw," and I'd make, wonky faces and disproportioned hands, and I'd be like, "Oh, I can't do this," and drop it, because I wanted to be great at everything I picked up. Because that's how I saw writing. I saw my writing as really good. And while I do think I've grown now, I do think I had a very natural knack for it, for storytelling. So by the time I was getting into college, the only thing I really loved doing was writing. Of course, you can't sustain yourself being a person just by writing, so the other thing I really did was consume media. Not books at the time. I have a whole video dedicated to why I stopped reading and how I got back into it, but that'd be a while off. I consumed a lot of YouTube. And I'm not gonna sit here and say YouTube's a bad thing. Very clearly, I consumed enough YouTube to delude myself into believing that I could become a YouTuber. So I don't dislike consuming media, because for a while that was enough. I wrote, and I watched YouTube. But I didn't exactly like sharing my writing, and when it came to talking with other people, I really didn't have anything to connect with people on, because YouTube and connecting over media you've consumed only takes you so far. They wanted to see me as a person, not just a sum of all the media I have taken in. And as a result, I became a bit of a collector. I threw myself into collecting pandas. I've been collecting pandas since I was literally a child. But I threw myself back into that collection, and I started collecting antique teacups and teapots and tea accessories, because that gave me someone to be. I was the weird teacup girl, which is perfectly fine. If any of you want, I can go on probably a multi-hour rant about the 70+ tea accessories I have in a porcelain cabinet. And if you don't want that, there's a chance I make an alt account and comment that someone wants it, so I have an excuse to do it anyway. I love teacups. But collecting is very quickly an expensive hobby, and there's only so far you can go with it. And in the last few months, I've realized I want something more. I wasn't doing enough. You see, writing has stopped being a hobby. Writing is amazing, wonderful, my favorite thing in the world, where I want to dedicate my life to, but it is future career goals. I can no longer just be like, I'm gonna write when the passion strikes. No, I have to sit down and be like, you're writing regardless. We get through the hard parts of writing. Because I want to be able to publish books and sustain myself in a capitalistic hellscape of a world we live in. So it started getting stressful to some extent. And then consuming, I was falling into rabbit holes of just consuming so much YouTube at once that I couldn't remember any of the videos I watched. They were just on loop for me to sit there and watch, and sometimes write, and watch, and write, and watch, and watch, and watch. And I felt like I was going insane. So I tried to switch to reading. Reading is wonderful. It immerses me in worlds that I could never imagine. But it was still not enough. It wasn't giving me freedom to explore myself. You see, consuming isn't a bad thing. I'm not going to sit here and be like, how dare you? I still consume a lot of media, between books, YouTube, and TV. But it isn't truly creative. And I feel like so much right now, the world is pushing us to consume, and not create and think. It is overwhelming. The world is so overwhelming that I feel like we're being forced into little boxes trying to escape everything, to see it as a distraction and use it to avoid engaging in a world that it feels like we can't change right now. And yes, distraction is good. Consuming can be good. But we can't completely escape this world, and we need to take a stand against it. And it may be really silly, but I began to color. This is my latest one, but I'm sure I will add some B-roll right now of some other coloring pages I have done. You see, coloring is... there's a knack to it. There's a learning curve of color theory, but for the most part, you can turn your brain off and just create something. The lines are already there. You're not thinking of this story and this world. You're just coloring. It takes a second to unwind, and instead of hearing or reading or consuming thousands of things at once, you can just think and exist with yourself. And yes, there will be times where that is uncomfortable, but I feel like we should be uncomfortable. And from starting something as simple as coloring, it got me started on a wish to be creative again. I'll be honest, when I was younger, makeup to me was... I was very much in the not like other girls phase of like, how dare you want to use makeup to look nice? You should just be proud of what you look like. How I'm better than you because you're so vain. Those are patriarchal ideals, just the same as deciding that every woman needs makeup is patriarchal ideas. But I realized that I could do makeup the way I wanted to. This is a very minor look. My skin has been against me lately, but that's its own story. Because suddenly I realized that being bad at something doesn't have to be a bad thing. I wasn't good at makeup to start. Maybe I can look up and find some old pictures of me doing makeup. What the fuck? Because I lost, because I never sat down to learn. But I began to figure it out. I began to figure out what looked good on me and what I enjoyed looking like. And I realized that if I went out in person and just talked to people and existed in the community around me, they aren't nearly as judgmental as the internet is. that communal spaces and places where you can talk face to face with people is welcoming and lovely. And suddenly, the world opened up for me. I'm not saying it's easy to stop being a perfectionist, but hey, you're not expected to be perfect at it. God, that's a bad joke. That's a bad joke. That's a bad joke. What really cemented this is my determination to sew. You see, I am fat. That's just a fact. Not going to get into specifics about weight, but I've always been slightly bigger. Try my best, but it is what it is. And so often, clothing that I would love to wear does not look good scaled up because of manufacturing processes, or simply is not scaled up. I'm looking at you, places that have extra large, and you try it on and it's definitely the size of a medium person. I'm extra large to 1X. I'm not even the biggest size. What the fuck are you talking about that being XL? Anyway, so I deluded myself into thinking I could sew. I know a sewing machine's a big investment. This was $230. But there is something about spending a decent chunk of change on things that when you fail the first couple of times, you don't just drop it. You kind of go, oh fuck, I need to get my money's worth. And combine that with my partner's obsession with Silksong and desire to cosplay Hornet, I decided I was going to cosplay Lace. And by golly, I've actually sewn some things I'm proud of. I've sewn a corset, bitches! Full hand-embroidered corset. The shirt's underneath. And the interesting thing about creating one thing is realizing how much else you can create with it. You see, I made this corset and these lovely, lovely other designs, but I realized that my sewing lines aren't great. I cannot pull a straight line, by golly Jesus. However, instead of being bad and beating myself up with, I decided, let's learn how to embroidery. And then I can embroidery over my shitty lines. And from there, I was like, oh my god, if I can embroidery, what else can I do? And all of a sudden, I realized I could make any whimsical clothes I wanted. I don't have to follow patterns. I can be full feral and figure it out. And suddenly, I was back to drawing. Because I needed to see what these clothes would look like. And Pinterest only goes so far when your wonderful crow brain wishes to shove every idea together at once. They are not good sketches. I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an artist, but it didn't matter because it communicated my idea from my brain. And all of a sudden, I sat back and realized that I may have started too many hobbies. But that's a good thing. I don't have to sit here and decide suddenly my entire life is going to be sewing, that this will be what I dedicate everything to. It can just be a hobby, a pastime to sew the clothes that I want. I don't have to sit there and color every page from this book to make it the most perfect art that I could sell on the interwebs. I don't have to do that. I can wear the makeup I want to wear. I can make the clothes I want to make. I can put practice into the skills that I care about, like trying to just learn how to sketch people, then worrying about learning how to make an entire landscape. And at the end of the day, that freedom is everything. It often feels like the world is trying to put us into a tiny little box. The people in power now, I don't feel represented by. Even on the supposedly left-leaning side. It is insane, because I don't know how to fix it. And I'm not gonna sit here and say sewing a costume of a video game character is the grand solution. But I think creating gets us into the right mindset for change. We have a world right now that is trying to control us through fear and hatred. And it is up to us to resist, and up to us to find joy in the world, in the communities, and creating. Even in the face of the horrors going on. You may not change everyone. You probably won't change everyone. That's kind of the quirk of human experience. Free will and all. But join a community of creators. Something that you've never done before. Pick it up and try. Sewing may be expensive, but drawing isn't. Just get some lined paper and a pencil and put your ass into it until something clicks. Because this is how we resist the horrors. And see hope that there is a future. I think I probably got way too dark in this episode. Sorry. Episode? We're episodes now. We're a TV show. I've just been thinking a lot lately. And I don't know how to not think, so I thought I'd put it into a video. Because this is kind of the newest hobby. I don't think I'm great at it yet, but I appreciate those of you who are sticking it out. Who knows, maybe you'll get some sewing videos in the future. So I can be the full whimsical goblin that I wish to be. But always remember, writing is difficult. Creating is difficult. And daring to continue is brave. Because that's how we fight back against the way the world is right now. Please, I want to form community with you. Because I truly believe anyone can create. And everyone has a story in them. Thanks.